FNAF!
Hey besties! Long time no see!
Long time no see!
So, how y'all been? I hope y'all are keeping well. So bad. You're probably wondering where I've been, or you don't care, which is also fair. A bit mean, but I've just been busy with life, you know, seeing family and stuff, and I'm lying! I have spent the last few weeks in a tornado. This tornado, this megastorm that had me hopelessly flailing through the air like one of those wacky wavy inflatable tube men, occasionally getting smacked in the face by something more horrifying than any flying debris could ever be. An opinion.
Oh, damn.
This storm continues to rage outside even after my grand escape. Oh, how naive I was to seek it out in the first place. And now it chases me, so I must keep on the move lest I be swept away once more. And now you're here, trapped with me, and we must embark together on a dangerous road trip consisting of one singular brain cell that makes up the entirety of our critical thinking skills. So grab your friend's ass and relocate to the car. There be a storm a-brewing. Can you hear it? Because I can. It sounds like... It's... Her. Her, 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 her. Her, 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 her. Her, 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 her. Her, 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 her. Okay, this was fun and all, but I actually can't. It's too dark. I can't see. Oh. See, it all began when I was in the worst era of my life, being 12 years old. The internet was a different place in 2014. People were drowning each other with buckets of ice, and Ellen DeGeneres and YouTube rewinds were still tolerated.
How was the party? I wasn't invited.
Actually, no, that's not the truth, Ellen. You were invited. Last year.
The gaming community was also having a grand old time with new releases such as Watch Dogs, Shovel Knight, Dark Souls 2, and Slayer 2, along with a bunch of horror games such as Alien Isolation, The Evil Within, and scariest of all, Mario Kart 8. However, in the distant horizon would be a storm, a tornado of theories, debates, music, and questionable fan art related to a bear, chicken, rabbit, and fox. So grab your Meemaw and Peapot and head inside. It's fucking windy, and the animal barn is about to get swept up and away and into a pizzeria, where the real horror is working minimum wage at fast food. Hell truly hath no fury like being overstimulated frying chips, while Karens yell at you about being overcharged, and you just want to go home and put an end to it all. By the candlelight, we exchange tales of how this storm began, of how one small, irrelevant YouTuber that no one really cares about called Markiplier witnessed the bite of 87.
Was that the bite of 87?
And now there's a tornado outside consisting of arguments and memes, ever expanding until it's here, it's there, it's everywhere. Who you gonna call when you want pizza there? Who you gonna call when games are there? Who you gonna call when there's an animatronic there? Come down to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, Fredbear Bear. If you don't know what Five Nights at Freddy's is at this point, then I must ask, how's the weather out on Venus? Can I join you? Planet Earth isn't doing so well right now. Five Nights at Freddy's, or FNAF, is a horror game series that started out in 2014 with its first game simply titled Five Nights at Freddy's. The game was created by Scott Cawthon, who, after struggling to gain success as a game developer, received criticism on his game Chipper and Sons Lumber Co., in which the main character was described as looking like a scary animatronic. Ah, come on. It can't have been that bad. Oh god. Scott almost gave up on making games entirely, but then, as he puts it, quote, "Then something in me snapped, and I thought to myself that I bet I could make something a lot scarier than that," end quote. And so he did, and Scott's last-ditch effort was a hit. Yippee! Yippee! Mainly thanks to YouTube, where the game's many jump scares gave YouTubers an excuse to scream dramatically at the camera. The most notable of these YouTubers being Darko, The Game Theorist, and our good old pal, Merc of Pliers.
Sir.
A study on YouTuber behavior by Magdalena Pietrutska describes how Markiplier made his first FNAF video more engaging in the funniest academic quote I think I've ever seen. According to her, Markiplier, quote, "screams 94 times in a 17-minute long video, not articulating words properly, and he often gets perplexed, verbalizing 10 no's in a row when most startled," end quote. The general gist of FNAF is that you are a night watch security guard in Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. A job that should be relatively normal if not draining on the soul because, as we established, hell hath no fury like working in fast food no matter what your role is. However, it turns out that the pizzeria's animatronics do get a bit quirky at night, and so it is up to us to survive until 6 AM without running out of power or letting the animatronics into our office, which would result in a jump scare.
Ow! Jump scare.
It's a good initial hook, but the jump scares are only scary for so long, so what made the players stick around? Why, the totally cohesive lore, of course. As more games got released, the lore, visuals, and gameplay would expand, alongside a fan base who were dedicated to solving the lore, and some who were dedicated to drawing fan art of their favorite ships consisting of 2 dilapidated robots containing dead children. Yikes! Dude, I grew up with this game series. It made me into who I am. A loser. And now I'm old, and everything has changed, and the same will go for FNAF, ending its old era and beginning anew. Okay, it was a bit rocky, but it's a new story. The tornado of opinions has died out, and we have achieved world peace. It was fun while it lasted, and now FNAF is ready to move on. Then they resurrected the old villain. Hi, I'm Yasmin, and I like talking about video games, music, and, well, anything. And today, I want to talk about Five Nights at Freddy's missing potential. Its potentials. What was that? What the hell? For this video, I will be laying out a framework made up of FNAF's strengths to propose a possibly better direction FNAF could have taken after the end of its old era. FNAF's missing potential. Potentials! Would you stop that? Why are you doing that? The idea that FNAF could be improved and how it could be improved is entirely subjective, based on my own opinions, and you're wrong! My opinion on what constitutes its FNAF's missing potential is 100% the correct opinion, and we will definitely not be looking further than that.
I'm smart, you're dumb. I'm big, you're little. I'm right, you're wrong. And there's nothing you can do about it.
For this video, we will look at FNAF's games and lore, FNAF's debates linked to its weaknesses, FNAF's strengths, and finally, using those strengths, create FNAF's missing potential. Its potentials. There will definitely not be some bigger realization or anything. Not at all! Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge that no matter what I say, I cannot please everyone. Listen, I am aware that I am not very smart. Feel free to disagree with me by all means, just please do not threaten my well-being. At the end of the day, it is not that deep. I'm just a silly girl who likes to chat and be silly. And finally, I will be using footage from other people's channels, so please check them out, the links are in the description. This video has less quotes and stuff like that, but I'm hoping to also compile a list in the description of all the articles and videos that I watched to help inform my opinion for this video. So once again, check them out. This next section goes out to all my besties who moved to Venus.
Let me ask you one question. Are you ready for Freddy?
Listen up, okay? Listen up, soldiers. In order for me to explain FNAF's missing potential, its potentials, we need to lay out what FNAF has done so far. You know, give a lay of the land, the games, the reception, and the lore. This will be done in a particular order with lore covered separately. I am not going into excessive detail for this section because it's not the focus of this video. If I were to try and give a full picture, we would be here forever, and that's only a mild exaggeration. If you want to know more about FNAF as a whole, I recommend these videos. May I bring your attention to this video by Gibby's Good Idea, Bad Idea. It covers all of FNAF's lore. It is also 9 hours long. Okay, so have at it, but for the sake of my argument, let's go on a little journey, shall we? Get in the car.
Please let this be a normal field trip with a friend? No way!
It's buzzing on down Main Street. You're relaxing, feeling good.
FNAF 1 through 3 set a particular tone. Here are some overall points. The gameplay style of FNAF 1 through 3 is sit and survive until 6 AM. These are resource management games in which you must not run out of power. This power is used up by mechanics such as the lights and doors. There are variations in gameplay, for example, replacing FNAF 1's closable doors with open vents in FNAF 2. The gameplay was very innovative for its time. Instead of us stumbling upon the danger is coming towards us. FNAF essentially became a whole new subsection of the horror genre. The main threats and subsequent mascots of FNAF are the animatronics, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, with each new game introducing a new iteration. New characters are also occasionally added. The mascots of this era rely on the subversion of child-friendly mascots and the uncanny valley. The simple horror that something robotic and unalive is acting alive and violent. The movement of the animatronics is also ghostly. We rarely see them actually move, and when we do, it's quick and snappy, inciting panic in the player. FNAF has a particular distinct art style, which is in line with all of Scott Cawthon's earlier games, such as The Desolate Hope. I'll also point out that there is no outstanding gore in any of the FNAF games. There is also not much voice acting in this era, except for Phone Guy, who both introduces mechanics to the player and adds to the lore with passing remarks.
They used to be allowed to walk around during the day too, but then there was the bite of 87.
Was that the bite of 87?
The lore of these 3 games centers around 5 children being murdered in Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria by someone dubbed the Purple Guy. There was also an incident where the bite of 87 took place. The story is told in this disjointed, abstract way, with secrets hidden all over the place. This definitely played a part in forming a fan base consisting of theorists and others. So, those are the main overall points for this era. Now, let's take a look at each game.
Five Nights at Freddy's. That's where I wanna be. Five Nights at Freddy's.
FNAF 1 looks like this. It set the general tone for the rest of the series, so much so that earlier I used a description of this game in particular to describe FNAF as a whole. FNAF's unique art style is on full display here with a vast array of colours under dim lighting. The visuals also place us in a claustrophobic office. This game has the first and most iconic iteration of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, effectively using the uncanny valley and the subversion of child-friendly mascots, as I mentioned. The gameplay is quick and snappy, utilizing cameras, lights, and doors, and sound plays a large part as well. On top of Phone Guy's messages, secrets are revealed in other unique ways, such as through the cameras. For example, this safety poster changing to one of 4 reports discussing missing children. Things also appear in the office. I must add that it is interesting that we never question how things are changing on the cameras. Even if the place is haunted, a poster changing like this is realistically impossible. Yet due to the way in which video games function, its explorative nature outside the set narrative universe, we can somehow easily accept it. Just food for thought. FNAF 1 is still widely regarded as one of the best in the series, which makes sense. It set the standards, introducing unique gameplay, sound, art styles, character designs, and storytelling methods. It was truly the beginning of everything.
Mom, can you pick me up? I'm scared.
FNAF 2 looks like this. It is visually very similar to FNAF 1, with a lot of bright colours. However, the space is no longer claustrophobic, the office is bigger, and so now we are exposed. There is no more safety enclosable doors. They've been replaced by one open hallway and 2 vents. You know what's better than some animatronics? More animatronics! This place is packed with animatronics. There are new iterations known as the toy animatronics and the OG gang, now in their withered iteration. Woohoo! That is disturbing. But we're not done. There's also a bunch of extra dudes, most notably the puppet, also known as the marionette. Wait a minute. Out of everyone, my personal favourites are the physical representation of my declining mental state, the mango, and... Now that's a crowd. So if there was one word to describe the gameplay, it would be chaos. Still quick and snappy using cameras, a Freddy mask and lights.
No, get those lights off!
And you're also winding a music box to prevent the puppet from being left alone with their thoughts for too long. There's just a lot going on. We also have new storytelling methods. Between nights we get to experience this fun fever dream. Is this Freddy Simulator or something? What on God's green earth is happening? But more interestingly, we have these after-death 8-bit minigames. These 8-bit minigames have become a staple in the FNAF franchise, and they fascinate me. They are a form of storytelling set outside this fictional universe's boundaries, in this in-between zone that only exists in the gaming medium. It's too abstract for film because film is always stuck in its narrative universe. If you were to try and put it in, people would just be confused. Much like FNAF 1, a lot of lore stuff is given to us in a way that lies outside of what should be deemed possible in this fictional universe. Yet, it never feels like it's breaking the fourth wall. Despite the chaos, FNAF 2 was well received. The toy iterations are also, in my opinion, not that scary. They're just too sleek and modern, though I doubt this will become an issue in the future. You know what, FNAF 2 was just working in fast food during a rush simulator. At least here you can't accidentally slip on grease and deep fry your hand. Maybe this is an improvement.
Leave me alone, Freddie Mercury! You're supposed to be dead!
So you think you can stone me and spin
No, no, no!
FNAF 3 looks very different. It's dark, dreary, and most of all, green. This makes sense narrative-wise. We are in a different location, a horror attraction called Fazbear Frights. The art style is also still pretty consistent here. We also have Phone Dude instead of Phone Guy. Yuck, cowabunga.
Legit, man.
Hey there, fellow kids. You know what's better than a lot of animatronics? One animatronic. Wait, what? Wow, it really is all or nothing, huh?
One!
This animatronic is called Springtrap. This mold stain is less Uncanny Valley and more so body horror. His existence in itself is scary in the narrative context. I really like his design, as many do, and also the OG gang are actually here. In their Phantom iteration, they can scare you and slow you down, but they cannot kill you. The gameplay here is less snappy, using cameras and audio cues, and you have to embrace your inner iPad kid. This game has 8-bit minigames placed between nights, and other really hidden ones. Like, dude, beep boop, like, hello, why am I typing my number into a wall? Hello, hello? Hello? This game also has a good ending and a bad ending. FNAF 3, despite having some really interesting narrative ideas, is unfortunately seen as one of the weakest in the series. It just has unengaging gameplay and skin traps. Springtrap's jump scare is just not scary, like, at all. Which is a shame, but it is what it is. I think the main takeaway from FNAF 3 is that Springtrap sounds like a name that you'd give a Transformer. Skin traps. Like, you've got Skyquake, Wheeljack. Look me in the eyes and tell me that Springtrap doesn't fit that list.
My equilibrium destabilized.
Skin traps. Moving on, Did you hear that? Sorry guys, give me a second. So it turns out that there was someone at the door. That someone being the internet police. They are here to arrest me for having an opinion. I mean, I didn't even get to share the opinion yet. I then spent the entire night on the run, and now I am hiding somewhere where they are least likely to check. The exact same spot where they found me. If you think for a second that you can get between me and committing crimes, then you've got another thing coming, bud. You call it a threat, I call it a challenge. Let's continue.
Firefox. 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 What the fuck happened?
This is an era of change where the games have started to implement new ideas, especially gameplay-wise and story-wise. Oh god. FNAF notably likes to one-up itself, and from here the lore would start to expand. For better or for worse, we will get into that when we actually cover that in its specific section. For now, here are the most notable aspects of FNAF 4 and 5.
Drive it over to your house.
My house?
Yes, your house. We're gonna drive it over there and park it overnight. And then tomorrow...
man, not my house!
FNAF 4 looks like this. That's right, folks. The animatronics have pulled a sniper wolf and shown up at our home.
Excuse me, what the actual fuck are you doing in my house?
And once again, it's the sit and survive till 6 a.m. foundation. Wait a minute. I can move? I have feet? Ah! Oh, Jesus, what has happened to the Faz Gang? Nightmare iteration. This doesn't seem to be a very good marketing move for a child-friendly restaurant chain. Someone is getting fired.
How you sleep in the bed with your dog? When the last time you even watched the dog? You ain't buy that dog, you stole that dog. How does your dog look like a homeless dog?
So yeah, this game has a very different setting, taking place in a child's bedroom. Something that players can actually relate to a lot more than the pizzeria setting. And it feels so much more jarring that the animatronics are existing in this space. These animatronics also replace the uncanny valley with teeth. Some argue that FNAF 4 is trying way too hard with the extra rows of teeth. But to that, I say, come on guys! Many, myself included, find FNAF 4 to be the scariest in the entire series. The gameplay relies heavily on listening, exposing the player to loud jump scares.
So the first night is never usually that bad in any of the games, so I'll play through.
You are listening at the doors, keeping Foxy in the closet, and preventing these weird effects from multiplying. The ambience, the atmosphere, the gameplay, it is all so anxiety-inducing. In fairness, many don't criticize the game for those aspects. Instead, many say that FNAF 4 is where the story began to get way too convoluted. Though, ironically, it is here where the games start to follow a somewhat linear method of storytelling. Between every night is yet another set of those 8-bit, is that 8-bit? I don't know, minigame thingies, following the story of a crying child being relentlessly bullied by his brother. There's also a countdown to a party. There are also secret endings, and hoo boy, when I tell you that those are still hotly debated. The tornadoes are whirling. They were the most infuriating pieces of information when trying to put the story together. I will put you back together. Shut up. What does that mean? What's in the case, you bitch? Yeah. Hold on, me, mom, peepaw. We're about to get swept away. Wow, I wonder what interesting new ideas will be introduced next. I wonder... what the hell?
Okay, pull up, Hal.
I didn't get to finish.
This is FNAF World. It isn't that important to the FNAF timeline. I'm just acknowledging that it exists, and that it highlights a non-horror version of FNAF. Interesting.
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
These are also the FNAF books. Yes, there are books. I'm just acknowledging that they exist. They will definitely not become relevant later on in the video.
Hi, sisters!
FNAF 5 looks like this. We've got some really dynamic lighting and a not green setting. Or should I say settings? Because this is the first game to have us in more than one room. That's right, folks, we still have legs. The gameplay is still mostly point and click, but aside from that, this game changes up pretty much most of the FNAF formula. We've got new characters / iterations, Circus Baby, Funtime Freddy, Funtime Foxy, and Ballora. These guys are
Johnny, like the treasure from the Pokemon wreck. Scrub the tech and make it look shiny.
and notably...
Can you hear me? I'm pretending. Remember how I said I could pretend?
talkative. These guys pretty much move entirely away from the subversion of child-friendly mascots and towards a futuristic sci-fi look and sound. Which, though different, is scary in its own way. There's a lot more metal and unpredictable sporadic movements. And lore-wise, these guys are designed like this for a reason. We also have voice acting. FNAF 5 is the first game to have an animatronic be sentient and able to speak to us at length. This changed the animatronics from being this silent, ghostly presence to this sentient and untrustworthy presence. Many players vibe with the new stuff, however they also still have issues, namely with the narrative, which is growing all the more convoluted. Again, it's ironic even more so this time, because FNAF 5 fully embraces a linear narrative. 6 AM arrives when you've made it through the narrative for that night, with a wide variety of gameplay events with their own mechanics. This game also leans into humor. Scott Cawthon has always been silly goofy in the way he engages with his community, and yes, that is important.
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
Secrets everywhere. FNAF 5 secrets are a lot bigger than in previous games, with even the 8-bit stuff lasting longer and showing more details. There's even a whole secret hidden room with its own secret event and hidden ending. Wait, is that the FNAF 4 house? Huh? No, it's here. No, Mima, Peepa, no!
Here comes the hurricane.
Oh, I should hold a book for this bit. Like, feel, like, set up the vibes. Where are my books? Oh god, I don't have a book. This looks like something that FNAF would take place in. Definitely. Do you like my cat pen?
Oh, you're so Portuguese.
Well, once upon a time in the magical town called Hurricane. I'm not kidding. That's the town's name. Would you believe that I found that out after I put in the whole tornado bit for this video? There are two besties called Henry, Emily, and William Afton. These two are sick of having no monies, so they girl pussy slay queen their way into opening a pizzeria called Fredbear's Family Diner, where they wear these spring lock suits that double as animatronics to entertain the youth. Spring Freddy and Spring Bonnie. Congrats broskies, y'all are now businessmen. And furries. The duality of man. Do you want to look at the page that I'm looking at, pretending to look at to read for this? Yeah. I'm an artiste. Do you like it? Picasso. They eventually opened a second location called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza with our iconic animatronics, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. There's also the marionette. Henry Emily has a daughter called Charlie, and William Afton has two sons and a daughter, Michael, Evan, and Elizabeth. Turning the page for dramatic effect. So William Afton is actually crazy. Oh my god, you're so crazy, girl. So much so that despite having more kids, he decides that Henry Emily has too many children, and that having two first names is weird. So he murders Charlie, Henry Emily's only daughter.
Am I the asshole for murdering my business partner's daughter? I, 35 male, was feeling a little silly goofy.
Charlie's spirit then possesses the puppet/marionette. The universe then said, an eye for an eye, a child for a child. Welcome to FNAF 4. Yep, I know. Things are getting wacky at the William Afton residence. Evan, William Afton's younger son, is scared of the animatronics at the local pizzeria. Michael, William Afton's older son, decides to have beef with a child. Like father like son, I suppose, and he bullies his brother Evan. The bullying escalates when Michael and his squad lift Evan up to get up close and personal to Spring Freddy, where Evan's tears activate the spring locks, and that's why I love Nestle Crunch! No, Mark, you stupid man. This was the bite of 1983. Yes, there were 2 bite incidents. Ah! Yeah, that craziness, double it and give it to the next person. That person being William Afton, because he gets even crazier after losing Evan. So, wearing the spring Bonnie suit, he lures 5 children into the back room of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, the second location, and murders them. He hides the 5 bodies in the suits: Spring Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. The marionette / Charlie helps the children by attaching their souls to the animatronics. How does this help? I don't know.
Animatronic I can attach my soul to.
So, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, the second location, closes down and William Afton is fired. You're fired. Do you like how there's nothing in this copy? Look at those pretty designs. Aww. So William decides to indulge in some unemployed activities, including hating children and science. William Afton sets up Afton Robotics, where he creates animatronics specifically designed to lure, trap, and or kill children. He then creates the sister location to house these animatronics. However, the universe once again says, an eye for an eye, a child for a child. William's daughter, Elizabeth, gets too close to Circus Baby, and that's why I love Nestle Crunch!
Double homicide.
The sister location is shut down and the animatronics are moved underground, under William's house, the FNAF 4 house. William has one child left, Michael, and so obviously he's going to do the fatherly thing and send him underground to try and free Elizabeth's soul from Circus Baby. Father of the Year, everyone!
You are my dad. You're my dad! Woogie, woogie, woogie!
That's right, folks, it's FNAF 5. So in the end of FNAF 5, the animatronics get like scooped, aka their like parts ripped out, and then their parts like come together to like form this guy called Ennard. This guy or guys wants to escape, but Ennard needs a suit. Also at the end of FNAF 5, Michael is tricked by Circus Baby into getting scooped, and so Ennard's all like... After a while, Michael gets all moldy, and so Ennard decides to eject themselves.
Not a blast!
And so, an eye for an eye, a child for a...
Open the floodgates of heaven. Let it rain.
What? He's alive! He has pulled a Jesus! And he's purple. Not to be mistaken with the murderer purple guy, William Afton. Yes, there are 2 purple people. Whom, speaking of, Michael has something he wishes to say to his father.
Father, it's me, Michael. I did it. I found it. It was right where you said it would be. They were all there. They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you. And I found her. I put her back together, just like you asked me to. She's free now. But something is wrong with me. I should be dead, but I'm not. I've been living in shadows. There is only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you. I'm going to come find you.
And so, the hunt for William Afton begins, and we are undercover in FNAF 1. Finally, we're actually experiencing the first game. Psst. At some point, some security guard called Jeremy got bitten by some guy called the Mangle. It wasn't that big of a deal. It happened in like 1987 or something. Wait a minute.
Was that the bite of it?
Also, in case if you didn't clock that, that was FNAF 2. Still no sign of William Afton. Where could he be? Damn. I guess we'll never know. William Afton is at the original location dismantling all of the animatronics, leading to the 3 child spirits chasing him. William puts on his spring Bonnie suit, you know, the one he murdered those children in, to protect himself and to scare the spirits. However, the old location is moist, and so the moisture gets into the spring locks, and that's why I love Nestle Crunch!
Well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions.
Cut to a few years later, FNAF 3. Fazbear Fright's horror attraction is gathering stuff from old locations to make itself more spookier and to get more people to visit. Bone Dude finds this sick animatronic dude. It's totally like rad, but actually it's totally bad because it's William Afton, now known as Springtrap. He has also pulled a Jesus and come back to life. At the end of FNAF 3, the building is set on fire, presumably by Michael. Unfortunately, Springtrap / William Afton survives the fire because he apparently always comes back or something like that. So it's still Michael versus William Afton. Who's gonna win? And that's what you missed on Glee. The canon order of the games so far goes like this: FNAF 4, FNAF 5, FNAF 2, FNAF 1, and FNAF 3.
It makes so much sense.
Chaos. There was chaos everywhere. The theorists were losing their mind, to say the least, and I don't blame them. Whether it began in FNAF 4 or 5, maybe it was there all along. The complexity of this story was almost suffocating at this point. It's a miracle that anyone managed to put together a story at all. How can a story like this get a cohesive ending? Is it even possible?
It's time to wrap this mother up. Oh.
Scott Cawthon told the community that he would be working on a spin-off tycoon game to take a break. Teasers revealed that the game would be called Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator. And then, nothing for a while. Then, the game was released with no official announcement. I guess it didn't really need it, it was just a spin-off tycoon game. See, totally normal, and... wait. Oh my god. Welcome to FNAF 6, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator. We have finally girl-bossed our way up the ladder and we get to make the rules around here. We get to build upon a manager-owned pizzeria. We're finally free from minimum wage! Woo! FNAF 6 is packed with different gaming sections, all rotating one after the other over the course of 6 days. Your goal is to build a successful enough pizzeria to host a party on Saturday. There are 3 main sections in this game: the tycoon portion, where you are building upon your pizzeria and playing minigames, the sit and survive part, where you are loading stuff on a computer, and the salvage section, where listening and bombastic side-eyeing is key. We don't physically move from location to location like in FNAF 5, but rather from perspective to perspective, from overlooking the pizzeria and playing minigames in this out-of-body way, to sitting in an office and across from an animatronic in an in-body way. FNAF 6 plays a large part in recognizing FNAF's missing potential. Its potential. Shut up! The ideas are just pouring out of it. Art style wise, this is classic FNAF stuff. However, when it comes to the lighting, ambience and atmosphere, each section is so distinct. So much so that moving from one section to another feels jarring. We get whiplash. And I love it. But what I love even more are the smaller changes in tone, which are shown the most through the minigames and their secrets. We go from fun and colourful to ominous and disturbing sounds and visuals, hiding darker narrative revelations under childish games.
Now I will tell you a story. A story about a kind man who would visit 5 orphans and bring them toys and gladness. The man lived alone, and lived in fear that someone might break into the house of one of the 5 children, so he adopted all 5. And brought them together in one place, in his own home. He promised them to never leave them, and they promised to always come home, and never stay out too late. He left one day to buy food, his heart being filled with gladness, but returned to find that the burglar had chosen his home, and killed all 5 of the children. The man could only afford one coffin, so he stitched the 5 bodies together to make one, and buried the child. That night, there was a knock at the door.
This game also has an abundance of humor, from this to this. We've also got a good number of jokes involving good old corporate corruption. My personal favourite joke is the fact that you're able to add seatbelts to the ball pit. I don't know why, but there's just something it's so stupid, but I think that's why I love it. It's so... I could just picture a parent like strapping little Timmy into the ball pit. Like, what is this? It just kills me. It's so funny. Buckle up, kiddos. There are new animatronics you can purchase for your restaurant, and we also have the salvage dudes. Scrap Baby, Molten Freddy. Psst. These were both Ennard, but then Circus Baby got voted off the island. Ejected, and so she had to kind of like piece herself together, and Ennard rebranded into Molten Freddy. We also have Scrap Trap. Wait a second. Unfortunately, this game does have its weaknesses. The jump scares are not that scary. Well, they could be, it's just that the animations are overall very much lacking. And the sit and survive section is nowhere near as iconic as the classic era, which is a shame, but it is what it is. This game has 6 endings. Most of them you can probably guess. Go bankrupt, be mediocre, but the most important one is the canon one. To get this ending, salvage all the animatronics and keep your pizzeria afloat. If you do this, you will get the official FNAF ending. The cutscene starts with Scrap Baby / Elizabeth talking to us. She thinks that we are a gift from William Afton for the animatronics. But then she gets interrupted. By who else other than the other founder of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, Henry Emily.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth, if you still even remember that name, but I'm afraid you've been misinformed.
So it turns out that Henry Emily set this place up with the goal of bringing all the animatronics and William Afton into one location, with the goal of ending everything, setting the place on fire. It's likely that we are Michael, who was hired by Henry to help set this place up. Both Michael and Henry choose to stay and die in the fire. Together, they free the souls of the children and put an end to William Afton, and Henry gives the most badass speech.
Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole, so don't keep the devil waiting, old friend.
FNAF 6 made the most of what it had, creating a solid and even impactful ending, tying up loose ends and allowing theorists to finally rest. I know it sounds like the lore was this big problem up till now, but honestly, I loved it. I loved piecing stuff together and hearing other people's theories. A lot of people did. FNAF was more than just a series. It was a unique experience that developed over the years, and the old era's ending left nothing to be desired. This is the end of FNAF. Okay, well...
Michael! Don't leave me here! Michael! Michael!
FNAF 7 looks like this. It's kind of just a free-for-all where you can play sit and survive with as little or as many animatronics as you'd like.
I'm scared.
Every animatronic has their own unique mechanics and their own after-death voice lines.
I get the fearful reflection of what you have created.
We also have this anime series thingy. I don't know, man. Lore-wise, it's most likely that we are William Afton in hell, being tortured for eternity. But there is also this constant reference to the one we should not have killed.
He's here and always watching, the one you shouldn't have killed.
So it's actually one spirit that's holding everyone up, unable to move on, and this is likely to be the spirit of Golden Freddy named Cassidy. If you get a certain number of points after surviving multiple nights, you get this cutscene. This cutscene is pretty heartbreaking, at least to me. Let's put a pin in that for now. Anyways, this is the end of Five Nights at Freddy's.
Get up, suckers, it's all over. Listen, we had a rough couple of months. Fucking Katrina's cousin Maria, the other one, Puerto Rico.
When I was looking at FNAF rankings across the internet, Help Wanted was in first place for most of them. This game had it all. A VR recreation of past FNAF games and a few new games, along with a bunch of collectibles and rewards.
Yes! Yes! I've never wanted anything more in my life! My ball.
Its visuals, sound, and gameplay were fabulous. It did have some bugs, but overall it was a love letter to the fans. Help Wanted had Scott Cawthon working with the company Steel Wool Studios. This changed the dynamic between how the developers interacted with the FNAF community. Teasers and demos were more official and more typical of a proper gaming company. At this point, FNAF had become a massive franchise. Help Wanted also had something else. It had lore. Okay. So, you have been hired as a beta tester for a new game. This game was made to improve Fazbear Entertainment's reputation after an indie developer created video games based on rumors of the company's wrongdoings. So Fazbear Entertainment hopes to poke fun at themselves in this fun, self-aware way to win people over again. Is that Scott? Oh god. It's probably not that deep. Probably. Right? This indie developer's actions directly led to Fazbear Entertainment creating this game, leading to more narrative. So yes, it is that deep. Okay. Scott clarifies that while the picture of the indie developer is of him, the indie developer isn't actually him. This is an in-universe indie developer. You also have to look for this clarification. There are many people out there who still believe that Scott inserted himself and indirectly us into the FNAF universe. That choice to just throw in his own picture caused even more confusion. But even if you know that it's not Scott, what does the existence of the FNAF games within the FNAF universe imply? How in that universe is that possible? How on earth did this indie developer know about William Afton, his family, his crimes, everything? That's just not possible. Okay, well, maybe it was. Maybe he was some super hidden super spy.
I'm an international super spy.
The reason why this all-knowing indie developer exists is because Scott needed a reason for the old characters to be here while starting a new narrative with new characters. To put it simply, it was to make this game canon. Hello, yes, hi, I hate to be a negative Nancy, but why does this game have to be canon? Why can't it just be a celebration of the old series? I think this was supposed to be an attempt at a smooth transition from the old era to the new era, but in trying to explain why the old stuff is here, you've had to add this indie developer with all-seeing powers, I suppose? I know that this task must have been difficult, and I don't envy anyone who had to sort that out, but I feel like there should have been a solid line placed between the old era and the new era. Otherwise, we have this awkward addition to an already finished era while trying to explain stuff for this new era. Now, I know what you're thinking. Yasmin, this is not that deep. And to that, I say, you're right. Moving on, what is this new narrative? As you progress through this game, you may collect these hidden tapes, introducing us to a new character dubbed Tape Girl. Tape Girl was an earlier beta tester that took over from a guy named Jeremy. Not to be confused with Jeremy from FNAF 2, yes, there are two Jeremys. Jeremy presumably lost his mind after finding some malicious code in this game. The details are pretty scarce. Tape Girl reveals the malicious code to be this guy, who is, by the way, getting closer with every tape that we find. And this is because Tape Girl broke this guy into pieces in the form of the tapes, which we have been gathering to piece together her message. Girl, you are the reason why this guy is becoming whole again. However, she does reveal a way in which this guy could be destroyed. You see, this guy wants to merge with someone. And so she suggests letting it merge with you. Then you flip a switch for a hard reset before he fully merges. This game has 3 separate endings, and in every single one, it is theorized that this thing escapes. This thing, by the way, has been named Glitch Trap. Oh boy, here we go. So, before he died, William Afton uploaded code of himself to the World Wide Web. So now there is Glitch Trap, and he wants a vessel to escape the digital and wreak havoc IRL. Can someone please pull the plug on this crusty, musty, dusty serial killer? But also, fuck you, Tape Girl, for going about this in like the worst way possible. So much so that many speculate that she has been corrupted by Glitch Trap and is thus tricking us. This new narrative is now fully sci-fi horror. Things are different for this era. So I just don't know how to feel about continuing certain things from the old era, like with Glitch Trap. I'm also not really a fan of the new characters so far. I don't really care about what happened to Jeremy. His story feels a little bit unnecessary. I mean, it did reveal Glitch Trap's intentions, I suppose, but Tape Girl's overall inability to give proper details really made me not like her, and that's coming from a girl's girl.
All women are queens!
As unsure as I feel about this new direction, I will say that this particular ending, recreating a child having been murdered and stuffed into a Fazbear suit and performing on stage while Glitch Trap dances around in the foreground, is actually pretty haunting. But yeah, aside from the narrative, Help Wanted is amazing, and it overall did the old era justice.
Wait a minute!
It's a favourite for a reason. It'll be interesting to see how the FNAF games progress without being able to rely on stuff from the old era, including the creator himself, Scott Cawthon.
Winds in the east, mist coming in. Like something is brewing, about to begin.
The lead up to the next game was cursed, to say the least. There was a divide starting to form in the community, cracks showing in the walls, a more intense tornado, starting with someone leaking Scott Cawthon's donations online. Donations towards Republicans and conservatives, and within that, specific people who are misogynistic, racist, homophobic, etc. Okay, listen, okay? I am not here to dive into politics. I don't think Scott Cawthon deserves to be threatened, but I also do not agree with his actions. Spending money earned from FNAF on these, in my opinion, terrible people. And that to me is the worst part. Not knowing if the money FNAF makes is still going towards these causes or not. I know I'm making a video on FNAF right now, but if this makes you get into FNAF in any way, please keep what I've said here in mind. Maybe even just look into Markiplier's iconic playthroughs on YouTube. There are also plenty of video essays, like mine, or that 9-hour long one. 9 hours, Jesus. I know it's a complex situation, and I don't mean to make anyone mad. I know Scott Cawthon has been so nice to his community and has done a bunch of charity work, but he has also done this. And this, in my opinion, is not good. I said my piece, please don't kill me, we move! For this video, all you really need to take from that is that this caused a whole new division. so much so that Scott Cawthon chose to retire. However, he is still involved creatively. It was up to Steelwool Studios to pull through. Yeah, those guys, they're still here. Gone were the days of informal interactions between an indie developer and the community. We now have a gaming company at the helm. Trailers revealed a new scary antagonist called Vanny, speculated to be the result of Help Wanted, a vessel of Glitchtrap, whose alter ego is a night guard called Vanessa. Some voiced concerns over the graphics and other stuff, but not much could really be said until the game came out. 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 No one truly knows for sure what was going on at Steelwool Studios, but the delays that occurred right up until the time it was set to release really felt like winds in the east, mist coming in. Like something is brewing, I'm about to begin. And so it began.
Yeah? No!
If I were to describe this game in one word, it would be ambitious. FNAF Security Breach looks like this, and this, and this, and this. This game takes place in a massive pizzaplex. It's giving Stranger Things 3, or Coconut Mall. This would be pretty cool if it wasn't so big that it made it difficult to navigate and made chase sequences lose all intensity.
Bet you don't even have friends. You're the best. You will one day.
Shall we continue? We have 4 new animatronics: Glamrock Freddy, Glamrock Chica, Roxanne Wolf, and Montgomery Gator, along with a bunch of other new characters.
Hi, please take this map. Take a map.
Security Breach changes up the typical FNAF animatronic role by having Freddy be an ally.
Talk, Valentina. Ally.
Come on, Freddy, come on! Oh my god!
The animatronics are no longer this ominous presence. We no longer have the horror of something robotic and unalive acting alive and violent. The AI is so advanced that the animatronics truly seem alive. The designs are just so shiny. This could still be scary if you replace one horror with another, which was attempted by having this AI being hacked by the villain. It's just a shame that it wasn't done very well. Look at these goofy animations for what is supposed to be a threat.
Hi. Okay.
Speaking of goofiness, one of the most talked about features of this game is the bugs. Bugs everywhere. I don't know what the hell was going on behind the scenes at Steelwool Studios, but clearly the girlies were fighting.
Oh my god, no! Not like this. Not like this. Please. Give me in. Freddy! Freddy!
Because what on earth is happening?
We're gonna go down to parts and services, and I'm gonna shove a beak inside of you, and you are going to be able to talk better. Did you hate the idea that much?
Okay, so far things aren't looking too good, but this could be remedied by having a strong narrative. Things don't have to be scary if the story is impactful. We play as a kid called Gregory, who got stuck in the pizzaplex after closing hours. Gregory ends up in Glamrock Freddy's room, where he becomes besties with Freddy. He can climb into Freddy and operate him as a sort of mech for a period of time. So together they must survive the night on the run from the security guard Vanessa, Vanny, and the other animatronics who are acting a little bit quirky. Sorry? Why not just stay in Freddy's room for the night?
Wow, that's a great question. I wasn't expecting that question.
We have to accomplish multiple narrative-driven goals within this open-world game. We want to find out why the animatronics are acting more aggressive and what's the deal with Vanny. We get answers to neither of those questions. Okay, let's put this out in the open. It's obvious that Vanessa is Vanny, and this character is just the biggest letdown. Vanny was implied in the trailers to be the big bad of this game, Glitchtrap's vessel, and yet we never see her throughout the game. Like maybe 2 or 3 times, and that's it. She's not scary, and she's not a threat. We see more of Vanessa.
Freddy, you're supposed to be on lockdown.
Vanessa!
And yeah, we know that she is Vanny, but Gregory doesn't, and yet he acts as though she is this terrible person when she's just trying to do her job. Vanessa is literally just doing her job as a security guard, and yeah, she is a bit mean at times, but she seems more stressed than anything. What is up with this character?
Wow, that's a great question. I wasn't expecting that question.
The main thing we get up to is upgrading Freddy, taking parts from other animatronics after destroying them. This helps to improve our gameplay. Why are we doing this narrative-wise?
Wow, that's a great question.
I guess you could say it's for survival? I guess. FNAF Security Breach is the first game to have a talking protagonist. Past FNAF games had silent protagonists, so the player felt as though they were the ones going through those experiences. By giving the protagonist a voice, a different approach is required. An emotional connection must be established between the player and the character in order for them to invest in their survival. It can be done well. But guys, I have something to admit. I do not like Gregory. Like, at all. Yes, I am beefing with a canonically homeless orphan. Sue me! I think a large part of this has to do with the voice acting, or more so the voice lines. When I first heard Gregory speak, I thought to myself, damn, this kid has some sass. This could be fun.
Hi, please take this map. Thank you. Please enjoy.
I hate that thing!
But as time went on, Gregory was never emotionally affected by anything. And because he didn't care, I didn't care. In moments when the player is supposed to feel threatened, we've got this kid acting as though this is just another Tuesday afternoon. On top of this, there are moments where Gregory is just downright cruel. He makes Vanessa out to be this terrible person when she's just trying to do her job. Oh my god. He's a Karen. But even worse than that, Freddy constantly expresses his discomfort at being upgraded with the parts of his animatronic friends and tells Gregory that they are clearly not acting like themselves and need help. But Gregory does not care.
Let me pretend I care. Okay, I'm done.
And absolutely just destroys Freddy's friends with zero remorse. This never gets resolved, by the way. Like, I get that he's a kid, but he just has no sympathy, dude. Hey y'all, sorry for this quick interruption, but I wanted to add on this little voice note because I think that this issue with Gregory is a lot more complex than how I put it in this video, and I would love to go in depth with it sometime in the future, so please keep that in mind. I would also just like to add a little fun note. So when I was looking for pictures of Gregory, now I know that the fandom websites are kind of problematic, so I mainly just kind of would look at them for pictures and stuff, but someone put Gregory on the villains wiki. Someone put the child on the villains wiki. Now who did that? Why do I agree with you? That being said, a character who did win me over was Freddy. I love Freddy's character in this game. As odd as it is to have an animatronic ally, I think they really pulled it off. He's just so caring and sweet.
What was that?
That is a fountain. And have a phaserific day. That was not me. That was a recording. I want to make sure you are not confused. I will keep you safe. Officer Vanessa, I do not know how I got here. If you see the DJ, say hello. He is such a nice fellow. Way to go, superstar!
He called us a superstar, guys! That is honestly what kept me rooting for Gregory. Not Gregory himself, but his friend, Freddy.
Gregory! What the f*** are you doing? How did you get up there?
When we finally make it to 6 AM, we can choose to stay or leave. This makes no sense. Gregory, after destroying the animatronics, aka Freddy's friends, without a care, is suddenly like, we gotta find out why kids are disappearing. Gregory, since when did you care? If he was true to his character, he would have absolutely just dipped. Also, what's with this Vanny option?
Wow, that's a great question. Wow, that's a great question. I wasn't expecting. Wow, that's a great question. That's a great question. Wow.
This game has multiple endings, and most of them are in this comic book style for some reason. Okay, It's clear from the trailers that this game was meant to be something entirely different. Whatever was going on behind the scenes, it couldn't have been good. Whatever. There are 6 endings. The first, where you leave and Gregory is revealed to be a homeless orphan.
If you're homeless, just buy a house.
The second, Gregory and Freddy escape in a vehicle. The third, Freddy burns down the pizzeria and Vanny and Vanessa are revealed to be 2 different people. I don't think I need to explain why that doesn't make any sense. The fourth, Vanny kills Freddy, Gregory kills Vanny. Fifth, Vanessa is freed from Vanny/Glitchtrap's influence. But weren't they 2 separate people? Okay. And she escapes with Gregory and Freddy. There is another ending. Underneath the Pizzaplex is the location of FNAF 6. No. We're not doing this. There's no way that we're doing this. There's this thing called the Blob, made up of all the animatronics from the old era. You know, the ones who got their climactic ending in FNAF 6? Yeah! Okay, we have a little showdown. With who? William Afton. Somehow, Palpatine returned. Ah! What the hell?
This makes so much sense.
In the eye of a hurricane there is quiet for just a moment. A yellow sky. I don't think I need to tell you where Security Breach places in most of the FNAF rankings that I've seen. And while I did drag this game, what I want to focus on is how it divided the community. More specifically, it was divided into old era fans and new era fans. The old era fans miss the feeling of the old era. They want horror. They want their story to be taken seriously and respected. They resent the new era for disrespecting the ending to the old era, viewing it as childish and lacking in horror. They also dislike the new emphasis on sci-fi. The new era fans have faced harsh criticism, so they resent the old era because of its fans, who are a bunch of negative Nancys who cannot deal with change. They argue against the necessity for horror and in favour of the potential of sci-fi. They are often on the defence. That being said, they too are not a fan of the old villain being revived. I don't think anyone is. I think that's the one thing we can all agree on.
It's entirely possible that
this is just a generalization. Some fans hold viewpoints from both or neither side. But overall, there are condescending vibes from both sides. They look down on each other. One has to wonder how we got here, how the fandom became so divided, and why William Afton was revived. What could have possibly led to it? Obviously, it was mainly because Security Breach was rushed, but I think that there could possibly be some other factors at play. Most blame Security Breach for the problems. However, I think these problems existed since the very beginning. So, guys, oh my god, the internet police, they found me. Gotta go. Gotta blast! I have once again successfully evaded the internet police, hiding in the one place that I think that they are least likely to check. The exact same spot they found me the last 2 times. What did I say about getting between me and committing crimes? I do hope they stop finding me. I'm running out of purple things to wear. I just want to be on theme, guys, okay? And I don't want to be an outfit repeater, because that's lame. Can't imagine that. I just throw out all my clothes once I'm done wearing them. I have still got plenty more opinions to share, so shall we continue?
Art, I don't want to alarm you. A tornado warning has been issued for our area.
Before we look closer, I just want to clarify that most of these causes for debate started off as harmless small quirks. It was the growth of FNAF into a pop culture icon as a franchise and what people expected of it that caused certain things to snowball. This is also going to be a lot less formally analytical. It's going to be mainly my own speculation. Not everything I will say is set in stone. It's just a theory. A game theory! Hello, Internet, my name is...
Boom. A child. No.
Let's start this off by asking one simple question. Is FNAF for kids? There are many reasons, in my opinion, as to why FNAF has become so associated with children, and a lot of these reasons originate in the old era and became more prominent as FNAF grew as a franchise. For example, there are a lot of FNAF toys and plushies that are presumed to be for children. From what I've seen growing up with FNAF, FNAF's merch started out as these kind of cool collectibles, but then as FNAF grew as a franchise, more companies wanted in on the action, and so the variety of its merch would expand, and there would also be knockoffs everywhere. I think the fact that the threat and subsequent mascot of FNAF being the subversion of a child-friendly mascot kind of unknowingly set up future merch to be for kids. It would also be easy to assume that little Timmy plays FNAF when he carries around a knockoff Freddy plush now called Flumper or something. What is with me and coming up with names on this channel? I'm so bad at coming up with fake stupid names. I actually cannot do it. But in fairness, little Timmy could also actually be playing FNAF. FNAF has always held a subtlety in how it presents its darker themes. From the beginning, it never really had any outstanding gore. Obviously, it varies from game to game, but typically, if you could handle jump scares, you could handle FNAF, right? I looked everywhere for the official age ratings of the old era games, only to be met with opinions. Oh, damn. And a lot of them. Most agree that the FNAF games are suited for players aged 12 and up. But the fact that there's no official age rating only serves to fuel the debate. Seriously, if you guys can find an official age rating anywhere, please let me know. Maybe I'm just stupid. Even so, here's the thing. Just because a child can play FNAF, does that mean it was made for children? In my opinion, I don't think FNAF is for children. Look me in the eyes and tell me that a franchise whose whole premise is about child murder is for children. Like, come on. Look at this. Look at that. Look at this! There are so many examples I could point to and ask you, was that made with child players in mind? Some brave kids could play it. Heck, I have some friends who have younger siblings who have played FNAF. But to say that it was made for them, or to say that FNAF's whole demographic is children, just feels incorrect. The reason why this is relevant is because a lot of old era fans assume new era fans to be children. Security Breach's new visual and narrative direction is childish according to old era fans. It is kind of ironic considering that old era fans were also around the same age when FNAF 1 came out. I was 12, remember? Going through the worst era of my life. People say that FNAF is now catering to children with Security Breach, but it has an official age rating of 12 plus and up. And on top of that, the extent of scary events that happen in Security Breach is about on par with FNAF 1. Security Breach just looks more colourful. Whatever direction you think FNAF is going, I feel like the makings of this debate really existed since the beginning, and not just in Security Breach as some may assume. Another thing that is linked to this debate that I want to talk about is how FNAF has always had this mashup of cartoonish tones and horror tones.
Casual bongos.
Which is pretty cool. I don't think I've ever seen a horror series incorporate horror and goofiness in the way that FNAF does. I only mention this as an issue because it has caused much debate on what tonal direction FNAF should go. This issue, prominent in Security Breach, originates back to, I'd say, FNAF World, where humor really started to be incorporated into the FNAF series.
Oh, it was paradise! We were in slavery! Nothing is perfect.
I mentioned how new era fans criticize old era fans for being unable to deal with change, and to that I say, Yeah, fair enough. But Security Breach didn't start that debate. I'd say this debate has existed since FNAF 4, aka the Transitional Games. FNAF has always been one-upping itself, adding and changing features more dramatically over time. Even during the old era, people were nostalgic for the classic era games, citing them to be the true FNAF experience, sitting and surviving, resource management, and having no legs. True FNAF. That's an interesting term. Nowadays, people look to the entirety of the old era with nostalgia. Who knows, maybe someday we'll look at Security Breach the same way. Still flying around in that god-forsaken tornado. Speaking of change, we need to talk about FNAF's transition from paranormal themes to sci-fi themes. Oh boy, this particular debate is extra spicy.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
Security Breach fully relies on sci-fi horror. Well, horror. Completely abandoning the paranormal. I already expressed my opinion on this. There's no harm in replacing one horror with another as long as it's done well. It was not done well. That being said, the discourse surrounding the inclusion of sci-fi themes has existed since about FNAF 5 or so. Okay, so to my besties on Venus, I need y'all to stay with me, okay?
Keep holding my hand! Keep holding my hand! Keep moving! Keep your feet! Wash your hands!
Stay with me. Remember when I said that Michael Afton pulled a Jesus and came back to life, and that William Afton also pulled a Jesus and came back to life? Well, you see, the truth is, there is no Jesus. There is no Easter Bunny. There is no Tooth Fairy. And there is no Jesus H. Christ. Only science and feelings. So William invented Afton Robotics to do experiments with the specific goal to achieve immortality. Y'all still there? Hello? Hello? And he did it. He did it, inventing something called Remnant. There is no solid explanation as to what Remnant actually is, but it has something to do with combining metal and strong human emotions. That's why William survived FNAF 3's fire. He achieved immortality. As for Michael, remember when he got scooped? Well, it turns out that the scooper had some remnant in it, and that is why he lived. In my opinion, the creation of Remnant answers questions that no one was really asking. And it gets worse, because by answering those questions, a major part of FNAF was changed. Think about when FNAF 5 actually canonically takes place, before FNAF 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7, meaning that every paranormal moment in those games is actually sci-fi? To some extent. These weren't ghosts haunting animatronics, they were children's souls or something attached to the animatronics using Remnant. Not only is the recontextualization of past games that thrived for its paranormal themes gonna get people mad, but also, that sentence I just said was confusing as hell. See, that's the thing. It's likely that the problem isn't the sci-fi itself, but rather what the awkward addition of sci-fi has done to FNAF and its lore. Because you gotta ask why. Why do this? Why not just let people pull a Jesus? Why not just let people suspend their disbelief? Surely no one would have complained. But that's the thing with FNAF. FNAF has built an identity on both over-explaining and adding in unnecessary details.
Drop the Krispy Kreme Serpico! We need your help here!
My house look like my father and my brother after 9 months or something.
Why are there 2 bite events? Why are there 2 purple dudes? Why did Ennard split into 2 separate dudes? Why are there 2 Jeremys? Why are Vanny and Vanessa 2 different people? Why is there 2 of everything?
Prepare for trouble! Make it double.
There were also over-explanations, such as the Remnant and the indie developer in Help Wanted. All of these details do two things. One, they contribute to the complexity of the lore, and two, they have conditioned the community to take everything seriously. From the beginning, FNAF has formed and therefore now relies upon a community who searches for an answer to everything. And don't just take it from me, take it from Matthew Patrick himself, who stated in an interview with Vulture, quote, "In a lot of other games, if a character has extra toes or whatever, you'd just assume that the developer forgot, or that it's a bug or whatever. But in Five Nights at Freddy's, there are no coincidences. It felt like each of those details was an intentional choice, leading you to a different part of the story." End quote. Every pixel in FNAF must mean something, so you can't blame people for thinking that every question must have an answer. Don't even get me started on the books. Don't even get me started on the... I'm not talking about the books. I'm not talking about the book. Yeah, we need to talk about the books, and I will start by saying that Scott Cawthon himself stated that the books do not take place in the same universe as the games. And thank God. If you think that the games were convoluted enough, you have not stepped foot into the hell zone that is the lore of the books. Oh my God! Thank goodness we don't have to figure out the lore of the books to understand the FNAF games. Where do you think William Afton's name was first revealed? Wouldn't you like to know a little bit more about Henry Emily's daughter, Charlie? Where do you think the concept of Remnant came from? Take a wild guess! Okay, you don't have to read the books to understand the game's lore. But if you want to know everything, I have bad news, bestie. These non-canon books providing further details to the FNAF universe pushes a narrative that even if something is said to be irrelevant, there is still a high chance that there are some relevant details hidden in there. Did you guys know that that joke in FNAF 6 about having seatbelts in the ball pit was actually a reference to the books, wherein the ball pit allows you to time travel? Time travel! On top of the ridiculousness of the books, this just leads to more questions. Namely, where is the line drawn? Chicken. What about the jokes in FNAF? Something that originally was just Scott Cawthon being silly goofy with his community. There have been times when something that was seen as a joke was actually revealed to have lore relevance. Take the ending of FNAF 1, where we, Michael Afton, get fired for these reasons. Seems silly, right? Getting fired for being stinky. Until you realize that in the lore, Michael looks like this. Yeah, I think he would be slightly unprofessional and smelly after housing a robot group project in his body. This joke was used by theorists to identify who we're playing as in FNAF 1. So then you gotta ask, where's the line drawn? And say you concluded that you have to just take everything seriously. But then Scott Cawthon inserts a picture of himself into Help Wanted as that in-universe indie developer, only to tell people that he just threw the picture in and that it has no lore relevance. So where's the line? So now I ask you this. How serious were those comic book endings in Security Breach? Are Vanessa and Vanny actually two different people? Or was this alternate ending just a joke? Who knows? No one knows where the line is. We're all flying around in a tornado and we can't see past the debris.
There was a very hungry, genetically modified caterpillar. 7 nuclear missiles.
The worst result of both the extra details and not knowing where the line is how it has affected FNAF's realism. Look, FNAF has always been a bit silly, right? I mean, a pizzeria where the animatronics do get a bit quirky at night, very silly. But to some extent it was rooted in reality, centered around 5 children who were murdered by a very bad man. All I'm saying is, at what point between all the extra details and over-explanations of remnant and sentient animatronics do you find yourself whirling around at the highest point in a tornado, up in space, where you just don't care anymore? FNAF seems to struggle with realism and suspension of disbelief. Everything must be explained, but those explanations take away from the groundedness and impact of the story. You've created a community who is willing to look into every little detail, so you must answer every little detail. But in doing so, you're only adding more details that need more details to answer those details, and suddenly everything is too confusing and unrealistic to mean anything. Old era fans in particular feel this way about FNAF's development. Even Scott Cawthon was getting lost in the source of the confusing lore. Apparently his goal with Help Wanted and the new era was to let go of the old complex narrative. So then what the
Don't pee on the floor, use the Commodore.
I don't think FNAF ever really knew how to tell a coherent story. Some people call Scott Cawthon a genius, and to some objective extent he was. But let's be so for real, guys, he had no idea what to do with the story. I'm willing to bet money that he looked at what the theorists were cooking up and just made it canon.
I think I'm about to steal!
One thing I will say, however, is that he is really good at abstract storytelling methods, allowing for vagueness and having the community fill in the gaps. It hides depth to be discovered. Henry Emily's speech is impactful when you know what is going on and who you're playing as, both of which were mysteries to be solved. The ways in which the old era FNAF games functioned, their abstract nature, allowed for these nonsensical in-between narrative things to happen. We don't question why the sign in the hallway is changing in a game where our character doesn't have legs.
Say goodbye to your legs.
Games allow us to explore our environment away from the immersive narrative, so the less film-like a game is, the more we are able to accept its abstractness. So now take Security Breach, a game that leans into film-like qualities. We are Gregory, who has voice acting and therefore must explain his every action to us. We are stuck as Gregory, with no space outside the immersive narrative. Even though this is an open exploration game, we have Gregory's voice acting keeping us stuck in the narrative. And this narrative is the most linear narrative that ever lineared. There is no room for abstractness. And this is where an issue occurs, because I think the abstractness of the old games haunts Security Breach.
I haven't seen him in
Ghosts. There are moments where we're doing things without really knowing why, such as upgrading Freddy, moments where Gregory is dismissive or silent, and while this silence works for the older games, here it just confuses us. Security Breach tried to implement mystery and vagueness in a way that only abstractness would allow for, resulting in not a puzzle to be solved, but rather a nonsensical experience.
It's okay, Sosuke. I forgive you.
What is going on? Cut back to me. What the hell is with this pacing? Cut to her!
It has also been revealed that Steel Wool scrapped a bunch of storylines and voice lines at the last minute. This was most likely because the game was rushed, but Steel Wool probably also struggled to usher in a new era while maintaining some of FNAF's old iconic trademarks. The FNAF film also, from what I've seen, showcases some of the old era's abstract storytelling. Just a quick spoiler warning, skip to here if you don't want to be spoiled on the FNAF film, though I'm assuming that most of us have already seen it. So Abby reveals William Afton to be the murderer to the animatronics by putting a drawing on a wall. Now the film does establish that kids communicate through drawing, so they have a kind of theme going there, but still, it did throw me for a loop, and it reminded me of how the old era games communicated their narrative to the player. Overall, this situation highlights how there seems to be this mix of old era stuff and new era stuff, even if this crossover sometimes makes things awkward. You just gotta ask once again, why? Well, after FNAF 7, a choice had to be made regarding the narrative. Continue the old era or begin a new era. The new era was chosen, but they just can't seem to commit to it. There just had to be some semblance of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica and Foxy. The FNAF 6 location had to be hidden in there somewhere. The old stuff had to stick around. Why? Well, obviously, this is just another company running an idea into the ground, squeezing as much money out of it. But then, why bother with a new era? Maybe to cater to a new set of fans? But then why is the old, complicated stuff here, like the abstract storytelling? This is because FNAF wasn't just a game series. It was a phenomenon.
And if the Five Nights at Freddy's bus crashes into us, to die by your side is such a heavenly way to die.
I went to see the FNAF movie with a friend who knew a little bit but not everything about the FNAF lore. And as we watched the movie, I wanted to explain the references that I saw, but I struggled to. If I told you that I wanted to experience all of FNAF for the first time today, where would my gateway be? Sure, you could say start with playing FNAF 1, but what if I wanted to experience the story? What about the details, the community, the theorists?
Someone tell me what's going on. Why, this is a crime scene, and you're the victims.
To just know what FNAF is past surface level without feeling intimidated as a new fan. Where is the gateway?
Let me in, please.
See, it's not that there is no answer to that question. It's that there are overwhelmingly many answers. Nowadays, I've noticed that a lot of the FNAF community consists of people who stick to knowing the basic stuff. 5 kids killed, Springtrap is the bad guy, a pizzeria, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, the end. I like to think that I know more than just the basic details. However, that's not just because I researched this video. It's because I grew up with FNAF. Over the last 10 years, both the FNAF games and the FNAF fans grew alongside each other.
My friend!
To put it simply, FNAF was a you had to be there kind of situation.
Ignore the cage.
If I wanted to get into FNAF today and saw that this was the canon order for the games, and that there were this many game theory videos, I would be overwhelmed. I was lucky to be there from the beginning, to have time between games to theorize. I was able to take in the complicated lore bit by bit. I got to be a part of the phenomenon. So how do you experience a phenomenon when it has already occurred? Where's the gateway? And so we must start a new era for new fans. However, FNAF is also now a part of pop culture. But only the surface bits, the basic stuff. Memes, merch, heck, even the movie, well, at least for now until other ones come out, all of these contain the basic stuff. The basic stuff is everywhere. But FNAF also still needs its old fans, the theorists, the ones who know the details, because they are also a part of the FNAF phenomenon. Thus, there is incentive to keep the old complicated stuff around, like the abstract storytelling, even if that old stuff clashes with some of the new era stuff. So how could FNAF create a new gateway for new fans when it's a phenomenon? Why, by starting a new era, of course. But then, how can FNAF maintain its pop culture identity and phenomenon status? Why, by continuing the old era, of course. Oh.
Choices were made. Choices were the big choices. Maybe not the right choice. Maybe some destructive choices, but they were made.
This leads to William Afton's revival. He has become a pop culture icon, one of the most surface levels of it, with his iconic saying, "I always come back."
I always come back.
I always come back. My voice is gone. I can't do a low voice anymore.
The journey is usually the part that you remember anyways.
This was a culmination of trying to keep old era fans around in the midst of everything being a gateway for new era fans, resulting in the untying of tied ends for the old era, leaving old era fans screaming in terror and new era fans frustrated that they don't have their own unique villain.
Every day I wake up and I hope you're dead!
All of what I just said there, it's just my speculation. Even if those aspects were at play, William Afton's revival overall was just a bad idea that somehow made it past the drawing room. So bad, in fact, that it was immediately sort of retconned in the DLC. Whoopsie poopsie!
Hurricane Katrina! More like Hurricane Tortilla!
What you just listened to is the result of my overthinking, my speculations and theories as to how this tornado came to be. In my opinion, a lot of these debates and issues began a long time time ago, and not just because of Security Breach. Security Breach was a culmination of FNAF's complex status as a franchise, pop culture icon, and phenomenon. Except for the glitchy gameplay. I don't know what's up with that, lol. While it's nice to come up with some sort of possible explanation for all of this, it also made me a little bit sad. Because all this time I couldn't help but think, what could have been? Oh well, I guess we'll never know.
It's potentials. Shut up!
The ending of the old era really left us at a crossroads, and now that we're in the new era, we can only wonder what could have been. In my opinion, if we lived in a perfect world where cats lived forever, male podcasts didn't exist, and corporations were willing to let a good thing be and just move on, FNAF's narrative would have ended at FNAF 7. However, we live in a world where I wish to move to Venus, and companies won't stop wanting to make money. So, if FNAF's narrative has to continue, what is the best way in which it could have? I would like to propose some ideas based on what we've covered so far about FNAF. FNAF's inner strengths gathered from its games and community to identify FNAF's missing potential.
Potentials.
No, this is the only missing potential. Because my opinion is 100% correct. There will definitely not be some bigger realization later on. Not at all. So without further ado, let's fix FNAF. Right after I spend the night running from the internet police.
Lizzie McGuire, you are an outfit repeater.
Maybe I'm an outfit repeater, but you're an outfit rememberer, which is just as pathetic. I am hiding in the one spot the internet police are least likely to check. The exact same spot they found me the last 3 times. Your girl is on a budget, okay? This is the one decent location we have in our house. Okay, now let's fix FNAF.
I'm back in the f***ing building again!
Something I noticed about FNAF is how it successfully balances that feeling of being enclosed yet exposed. I think it accomplishes this in all of the games, except for Security Breach. Security Breach's failure at it highlights how important layout is for horror. The Pizzaplex's main areas are way too big. It's too easy to avoid the threat, especially with these pillars you can use to avoid the danger, and with these back rooms that you can easily run into. That being said, I don't think we should abandon the Pizzaplex idea, for narrative reasons we'll get into later. I think FNAF is truly in its element when the threat is coming towards the player, and the player is limited in how they can physically avoid it. So I'd say take a page out of FNAF 5, get rid of these pillars in these big areas and have the player exposed there. And then on the contrast, have these small claustrophobic inner hallways and rooms. Have moments where the player is physically trapped yet exposed to the danger. There is one section in Security Breach that highlights this potential, which is the daycare segment, in which you are running around this kids' play area while being chased by Moondrop. You are encased yet exposed, and you can only rely on the light of your torch. Which, speaking of lighting, I think FNAF could return to its dimmer lighting, but for this location in particular, I'd push for FNAF 4's lighting, in which there is none. I can't see. In fact, FNAF 4 contains a lot of strengths. FNAF 4's sound design is amazing. It forces the player to listen, to lean in. It has this ambience that incites dread. It's subtle enough to create atmosphere without overdoing it. I think more can definitely be explored with this. And you know what? I'm just gonna say it. Picture this. Security Breach's setting, but with the improved layout, and FNAF 4's lighting and sound design. Imagine sitting and surviving, or even navigating this big pizzaplex with just a torch. You've got big open rooms with occasional light sources like moonlight through a rare window, or these other harsh white flashing lights like your torch or some glitching computers and technology. Otherwise, it's pitch black. You have to rely on sound to avoid the danger. You can hear your heartbeat, your breath, your footsteps, and something else is in the room with you. So now the question is, how should this something else, aka the threat, operate? For this question, we must take a pit stop. Everyone out of the car!
Get out of my car!
Aww. Fan games are a cornerstone in the FNAF fandom. As I've said, FNAF is essentially its own subsection of horror. There are so many amazing fan games that stand strong in their own right. Five Nights at Candy's, Final Nights, The Glitched Attraction, the list goes on and on. These games typically use the FNAF formula as their foundation. Not always, but mostly. Then they incorporate their own narrative, art style, etc. While there is plenty of inspiration to be found in these games, there is one game in particular that I think effectively showcases Five Nights at Freddy's potential, and that game is The Joy of Creation.
What's your favourite idea? Mine is being creative.
The Joy of Creation was created joyfully by a team led by Nick Sita? I'm so bad at names, oh my god. Also known as Nixon. It was released in 2017. We play as Scott Cawthon and his family in the real world. Scott's creations have come to life, and so we must survive the night trapped in our house with them. Each segment is from the perspective of a different family member with different gameplay styles. Most of the time we do have legs. Most of the time. Unless you're a stupid baby. What can I say apart from look at this? Oh my god. This game has inserted itself into FNAF history. However, to find FNAF's missing potential, we need to look at what canon FNAF actually needs. And we made this pit stop for a reason. That reason being the animatronics.
Get your f***ing dog, bitch!
It don't bite.
Yes, it do!
While the animatronic designs are amazing in their own right, albeit does kind of stray away from canon FNAF, what I want to focus on is the nature of these animatronics. I've mentioned how the animatronics in FNAF have gone from this ominous, scary presence to this less ominous yet untrustworthy presence. They've gained sentience and move more human-like than ever. Again, there is potential there, but I personally have been taking issue with how they move, especially in Security Breach, but it's also highlighted by, I'm sorry, the FNAF movie. I will say that the effort put into the making of these animatronics is insane. I especially love their size, both here and in Help Wanted, and I think we should stick to that scale.
For the love of great big bazongas!
However, in my opinion, the way they move in the film is just so unintimidating. They're slow, clunky, and awkward, and I get that they're robots with limited abilities, but I think more can be done for the games. Yes, I am choosing to ignore the sci-fi. These are animatronics haunted by dead children, okay? Let me have peace. In this lifetime. In the old era, I noted that the animatronics have 3 states. 1, moving slowly with purpose. 2, quick, snap, wah, they're running a mile, they're screaming at you. And 3, completely still.
I'm alive. I'm dead. I'm watching TV. I'm looking at you. F you. I'm dead again. I'm up. I can run faster than a bitch around the house.
I think these 3 states need each other to create the most effective version of the animatronics. It's ghostly, it's also machinery, and it's also nerve-wracking. I believe to an extent we should incorporate Security Breach's exploration element, and the Joy of Creation shows us how the animatronics could use the 3 states to threaten a protagonist with legs. Take a look at this chase sequence in Security Breach and compare it to this cutscene in the Joy of Creation.
There you are!
Ready? Ready. What are you doing? What are you ready now? Oh God! No. What is this? Help! Somebody help! Belle? Nick? Anthony? Sam, where are you?
Yes, I know, Security Breach was rushed and all that, but I think you get where I'm coming from. Make the animatronics faster when fast, more powerful and unpredictable when slow, and more ominous when still. There is so much inspiration to be taken from the joy of creation. Seriously, check it out, along with all the other fan games for that matter. But for now, get back in the car!
Girlfriend, stop! Get back in the car! You come back here!
Is this a bad time to tell you that I don't have a driver's license? Until Steel Wool Studios took over for Security Breach, FNAF had Scott Cawthon's distinct art style, and I think that's important. Scott Cawthon's art style has this innate ability to be unnerving even when it's not intended to be. And when Scott learned about this through a critic, he leaned into it and saw success. There has to be a more specific term for his style, though I wouldn't really know. I've seen words tossed around like retrofuturism and 80s sci-fi. Someone mentioned animusic and hoodwinked.
Don't get it, do you, Dolph? I'm done! I'm done dancing for the man! The Muffin Man never gonna answer to anyone ever again! Oh, I just love my job!
And you know what? Yeah.
Do I amuse you? Am I some sort of clown to you? I hate my job.
But the most fascinating part of this art style is how it allows for both horror and cartoonishness in a way that other horror games don't. Horror games typically use something silly to hide the horror underneath, but the FNAF games have both existing on the same level, pushing and pulling at each other. I think we should identify and incorporate some of that art style again to balance the horror and cartoonishness. It's also just so FNAF-y. But there's also something else there, something that could be incorporated but has also been debated. Something that has become a major part of horror nowadays and could possibly be a perfect fit for FNAF. So it turns out that I actually forgot some of y'all at the gas station, so we need to go back. Step on the gas! That's right, we are drawing inspiration from the fandom once again and looking at the FNAF VHS tapes. What exactly are these FNAF VHS tapes? Well, to put it simply, it's analog horror. Oh my gosh, we're actually gonna reference a proper article this time. Woohoo! According to Kyle Degersman, in his article on the history of analog horror, quote, "Analog horror is a subgenre of horror that draws heavily on the style and aesthetics of vintage analog media, such as VHS and cassette tapes. It's a form of horror that capitalizes on the eerie quality of grainy footage, distorted audio, and archaic technology to create an unsettling atmosphere. The emphasis on analog media paves the way for a distinctive narrative style, relying heavily on subtext and environmental storytelling." End quote. Sorry, what was that? Did I just hear archaic technology, distinctive narrative style, and environmental storytelling? Gee, I wonder who else uses that. Oh wait, I know, it's FNAF! There is a whole community dedicated to making these FNAF VHS tapes on YouTube. They are placed into the FNAF universe as training videos for new hires at Fazbear's Pizza or a cartoon made by Fazbear Entertainment, stuff like that. It's hard to tell who created the first FNAF VHS tape, but many credit Squimpus McGrimpus for popularizing it. In fact, his FNAF VHS series is so popular that many outsiders mistake it for actual canon FNAF stuff. However, please do not support Squimpus McGrimpus. A few months ago, he was revealed to be a child. I think you know where that sentence is going. And it isn't just speculation, he himself admitted to it. Any footage I use of Squimpus McGrimpus' stuff is from another channel who uploaded his stuff. And anything I say about his art is focused on his art solely. I am absolutely not praising him as a person. I also can't really avoid his stuff because his stuff is the first thing you'll see if you Google FNAF VHS tape. His stuff is just that successful. That being said, there are so many other amazing creators who are A, not terrible people, and B, still make things today that are just so cool. So I should have their names up on the screen now. Please check these guys out. They are just insanely creative. I might also use footage from their stuff as well, and if I do, you will see their name on the screen and their links will be in the description below. So now that we have that established, let's continue. The FNAF VHS tapes focus on FNAF's horror, but it's not just that. The best way I can say this is that the FNAF VHS tapes make us sensitive to what we have become desensitized to. Children were murdered by William Afton. We all know the story by now. You know, whatever, right? Except it's not whatever. Children were murdered. William Afton is a killer. Whatever, right? Except it isn't whatever. William Afton is a killer.
What's the matter, Foxy? I thought you wanted an audience.
Assignment BV1. 2 witnesses, both neutralized. Employee numbers 31-4A and 31-4C. Body disposal protocol followed. Inadequate subject has been captured and is awaiting further examination. Intergrab 2. Foxy, you've done
The VHS tapes provide a depth that was always within FNAF but never really explored. It provides more angles to the narrative without adding more narrative, which for FNAF is huge. It makes the story more impactful and the villains scarier, and even better, we can easily slot segments of this kind of horror into FNAF. Many agree that analog horror could never be placed effectively into film because it's too abstract. You can't just break away from the narrative to throw this in, it would just confuse people.
Huh?
But you know who naturally has breaks in their narrative? FNAF. In fact, a lot of video games. Everything I've been saying, the explorative element outside the immersive narrative, the placement of the 8-bit minigames, it's always been there. That allowance for abstractness. Analog horror could expand FNAF's abstract storytelling, and it's subtle enough to fit FNAF's lack of gore. Heck, we could even possibly use liminal spaces in the Pizzaplex to highlight the company's power and create this unnerving undertone. So much could be done with this. This all seems great, right? Many fans say that this is FNAF at its best. Everything about it just fits right in. In fact, it might fit a little too well, because this area also has discourse. Some people think that analog horror is the way to go for FNAF, as in the only way, that this is and has been the only true FNAF. I wonder what they mean by true FNAF. I guess it's not important. Others disagree, even saying that there are parts of the analog style that push things too far, to the point that it's not FNAF-like anymore. I wonder what they mean by FNAF-like. I guess it doesn't matter. There is also discourse within the analog horror community itself. Analog horror has become mainstream, aka extremely oversaturated. We've got unoriginal, overused tropes and constant one-upping, making the story unrealistic and unimpactful. People say it's now childish and has too many details, over-explaining itself, and hey, this all sounds really familiar. Yeah, so it turns out that FNAF and analog horror are almost identical in terms of their discourse. Just two tornadoes. It was like they were made for each other. Well, okay. I think we can include some analog horror in FNAF. But we must tread carefully, okay? Please, for the love of God and all things good, don't have overused tropes. Analog horror's definition is expanding, and hopefully this will encourage creativity rather than repetition. Maintain some subtlety, don't overdo it. Use it to remind us of how horrific the deaths of these kids are without showing everything. Take inspiration from liminal spaces for the Pizzaplex with Caution! FNAF is already dealing with its very similar problems. We do not need more. Be careful and go for it, because if it's done right, this could expand FNAF's visuals, world building, horror, and most notably, the impact of its story. So, fun fact, fun little story, okay? When I was doing some research for this video, I was watching this analog horror video. I had just finished watching it, like the credits were rolling, and suddenly the lights in my room flickered and went out. Guys, there was a massive power outage in my entire town. I wish I was making this up, and it was the middle of the night. The lights had me like standing in the corner of the room like this. I felt like I was in FNAF 4. FNAF 4 IRL. Fantastic. My phone was on 5%, so I couldn't even use my phone torch to see. So I had to like resort to what I would describe as the Tumblr girl version of the Victorian child's candle. I wish I was making this up. Like, look at this. This is supposed to be a well-lit street. Was this some kind of intervention? God, is that you? I can't see the end of the horizon.
Stop! I could have dropped my croissant!
I think since FNAF is known for them, we should have more well-animated and longer jump scares. This could be pushing for a bit of gore, but I just think more could be done than having the animatronics gyrate at us. We haven't discussed it yet, but Security Breach's DLC leans into this idea. We see the protagonists struggle without needing any gore. There is definitely potential here.
I am an alpha male gamer.
This bit is the hardest to talk about because I'm not experienced in game design. I know. Shocker, right? I'm just a girl in the world. What makes it even harder is that FNAF excels in many different types of gameplay, so it's hard to just pick one. To start, we have the age-old question, to leg or not to leg, aka to linear or to be abstract. So far I've argued in favour of both, with the Pizzaplex setting to be explored with legs in a linear way, and the inclusion of analog horror for no legs in an abstract way. FNAF 5 and 6 use segments to separate different gameplay events, so why not do that here? You can have linear narrative stuff with in-person exploration and abstract analog horror-styled gameplay, or even some good old sit and survive. There could be something for everyone. The best of both worlds.
O cholera, czy to Freddy Fazbear?
Finally, we are at the big one. What potential does FNAF have in terms of its storytelling and narrative? I've already covered how FNAF could incorporate both abstract and linear storytelling. However, since the transitional games, the FNAF games have been kind of naturally progressing into a linear narrative, so we may need to actually provide an in-universe explanation for the abstract sections, like how film would need it. But it can be done. FNAF 4's absurdity of having animatronics in the house was explained by it being a nightmare linked to the narrative. The FNAF VHS tapes are also these in-universe training tapes and cartoons, etc. So it can be done. So with that conclusion, let's talk details. First of all, make it make sense. Give us a solid reason as to why we are in the Pizzaplex, whether we were chased in or whatever. Make it feel like we had no other option. It doesn't have to be obvious, just give us the pieces to put together an explanation, just like they did with FNAF 1. From this, we could create a sympathetic or understandable protagonist. The older FNAF games gave us Michael, a man who, after accidentally killing his brother, wanted to stop his evil father. It explained why we endured FNAF 1, and while we never heard his voice, we could sympathize with his goals and understand why he was there. Whatever reason the protagonist has for doing anything, make it understandable, whether it's because of who they are, their flaws, the situation they're in, whatever. I think now, for new Era fans, it could be nice to have some voice acting, but it needs to be done well. They need to actually express emotions. Look at how Freddy was done in Security Breach.
Freddy, you're supposed to be on lockdown.
Vanessa, I'm a material girl.
Just like that. Make me invested, make me care, make me root for my character against the danger. And speaking of the danger, I think we need a strong antagonist, someone or something that poses a significant threat. And for this, may I propose a villain that has been hiding in FNAF's jokes all along, which, is fishing for them by now.
Fazbear Entertainment has developed something of a bad reputation over the last few decades, but we aren't above laughing at ourselves. Ha ha ha.
Valued qualities that we like to see in new employees are determination, fearlessness, and a genuine disregard for instinctive self-preservation.
Fictitious scenarios, lies that you've been fed over the last
Fazbear
several
Entertainment is not
years.
responsible for disappearance, death, or dismemberment.
Hear me out. Fazbear Entertainment could be a great villain if it isn't already one. We've been so focused on Glitch Trap and Vanny, these smaller villains, when we have overlooked the very company that has allowed these things to happen with no repercussions. It's all one big joke. How many lawsuits can you get in FNAF 6? Look at this long and funny thing you have to sign in Help Wanted. Jokes, jokes, jokes. You've got to wonder how Fazbear Entertainment still exists after all the terrible things that have happened, partially because of their own incompetence. It's most likely and pretty much established that they hid them.
And now that you realize that Fazbear Entertainment is a safe, family-friendly brand with no skeletons in our closet.
In Security Breach, Gregory did kind of try to go after them. I mean, he wanted to find out why the kids were disappearing. I mean, kind of out of nowhere, but he wanted to find out. But it was more geared towards William Afton, Vanny, Glitch Trap and all that. He isn't trying to expose the company's negligence. I wonder what would happen if you tried to. Fazbear Entertainment feels unreachable because we don't really know who's running the show. Is it one person? Is it a team of people? Who knows? It's a bright and cheerful company with a dark and sinister underbelly. There is depth there. You could make things jarring like in FNAF 6, with dark narrative revelations under a colourful exterior. The setting of the Pizzaplex suits this because it highlights the company's power and profit. Then you're exploring it after hours, when the friendly facade rests. Analog horror could potentially be placed here with VHS tapes from old locations, things that add new angles to the narrative without untying tied ends. So what about William Afton? What about William Afton? I am pulling the goddamn plug on that crusty, musty mold stain. But Yasmin, he always comes back, you silly girl! Let's reshape William Afton's saying, I always come back. Let's move away from literal to metaphor. Let's focus on impact rather than complexity. This is emphasized in FNAF 7. Heck, one of the characters here is called Old Man Consequences. And I told you to remember this cutscene and why it hit so hard. William Afton may never come back, but the pain he caused, the lives that were lost, and the legacy of a massive and corrupt company always do. And there's something relatable and realistic about it. A company covering up its wrongdoings? In what kind of world would that happen? A world where I want to move to Venus, that's what. Heck, let's fix Vanny. Why not have Vanny be an obsessed fangirl of William Afton? Because this also, unfortunately, speaks to real life, with the romanticization of serial killers and true crime. Some people truly concern me. Y'all better back up, this is my rocket ship to Venus. And you know what? The whole thing about FNAF fans being desensitized leads me to another idea. FNAF, with its pop culture status, wide range of merch, gaming company at the helm, iconic mascots, and massive community, could be so meta. Listen, okay, just listen. Listen! FNAF 1 animatronics used the uncanny valley and the subversion of mascots, turning something that was supposed to bring joy to children into something threatening. What if we went up a layer and took the FNAF mascots, all the memes made about them and how they're viewed as a joke in the community now, and use it to fuel the threat? Nothing to see here. Look how silly Goofy Foxy is. Isn't he just so silly? There's a dead child in there. Look kids, he's hitting the gritty. This fits the analog horror vibes, which as I argued before is a strength. Listen up, Steel Wool Studios. Listen up, okay? You have the opportunity to do the funniest thing right now. Change your name to Fazbear Entertainment. Right now. Everyone together now. How bad can I be? I'm just doing what comes naturally. Who cares if a few kids are dying? Hey y'all, it's me once again recording another little voice message. I just want to say that in the next section, you may notice some slight similarities. I mean, I'm not going to claim anything major here. Slight similarities to the FNAF movie. Now, I just want to state that even though the order of this video had me describing, the FNAF film here and there, I had this story idea before I ever went to see the FNAF film, and you're just gonna have to take my word for it. So, call me the knockoff brand of the god Apollo because your girl has the slight gift of prophecy, I suppose. Looking at it even now, it's nothing major really. It's really just kind of like some themes here and there, the whole kind of setup, like the job premise and some dream stuff, things like that. So it's nothing major, but you may notice it anyways. I would also just like to warn you guys a little bit. Anytime the camera cuts back to me from here on out in this video, you may notice it might be sometimes at a slight awkward angle, maybe slightly zoomed in and stuff like that. And that's because from here on out, I was fighting for my life with my camera stand. And fun fact, after the last shot of the video, my camera stand broke, fully broke, just dropped the camera on the floor, just gave up entirely. So, for the rest of this video, it really just wanted to look at the ground. I mean, same girl, I suppose. So, yeah. So, that's fun. Enjoy that, because I certainly didn't. We have now gathered the building blocks of FNAF's strength to create its true potential. Potential. Oh, thank God. I kept the strengths open enough for anyone to take it in any direction. But just for funsies, I just want to share a little story idea I have built from FNAF's strengths. I'll keep it short and sweet so it's more like a framework rather than a full thing. Let's call the main protagonist Alex. It's a basic enough name and it's gender neutral. So here's my story idea. Please don't hurt me. I've always wondered what happened to the families of the children who were murdered in the old era. Did they seek justice? And if so, it's clear that they never got any. Alex works in a insert minimum wage job here, janitor.
In a nerd. Are you going to get out anytime soon?
Making little income. They are stuck living with their parents in a run-down home. They used to be okay financially, but then Alex's sibling was murdered in Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria a few years ago. Alex's parents looked for justice, trying to expose Fazbear Entertainment, only to be chewed up and spit out by the judicial system. They financially ruined themselves. So now, with no hope of leaving town or going to college, Alex works their dead-end job. Their life was essentially ruined by this, and they are constantly plagued by nightmares of their sibling's brutal death. They are constantly told that they just have to move on. Then, the Pizzaplex opened just across town, a sign of Fazbear Entertainment's wealth and success, a company loved by many and cited as a large part of many people's childhoods. It's almost disrespectful how much they celebrate their past, the tale of the missing children rebranded as a myth and glorified as a mystery. Scratch that, it is disrespectful, and Alex can't stand it. But they just have to move on. Fazbear Entertainment is everywhere. Its merch is in the shops Alex gets their groceries from, its advertisements on the TV, radio and online, it's even in their dreams, alongside the corpse of their dead sibling. Alex has nothing to lose. They've lost everything. And so when the pizzeria closes for the night, Alex finds their way in, determined to find any evidence, a VHS tape, a document, anything to get justice. Little do they know how deep it all goes, how insane their security system is, how many animatronic prototypes have been left out to rot, and oh god, why are they moving, and just how dedicated some fans are. Okay, I think I'm in the clear. I don't think anyone's wishing death upon me. I hid under the table. I think my idea works because you don't need to know everything about the old era for this direction. And if you are a fan of the old era, then you can add in some new angles instead. It could be a continuation for old fans and a gateway for new fans if done well. You can see how the strengths we gathered earlier shaped this story idea. You can also have dream sequences with Alex to incorporate abstract analog horror. And so, dear friends, we have finally identified FNAF's missing potential. We fixed FNAF. It's over. We won. Except we didn't. And I'm wrong. The car's out of gas and the tornado is still outside. And its potentials.
You're gonna look at me and you're gonna tell me that I'm wrong?
Remember when I said at the start of this video that I cannot please everyone? To some, maybe many, I am the fool jingling miserably across the floor. Or in this case, up in the sky, in the chaos of the tornado. As I whirled around and flew by endless opinions and debates, I had a revelation. Does anyone know what FNAF is? Because I don't think we know what FNAF is. FNAF is a horror game, FNAF is for kids, FNAF is teeth, FNAF is Uncanny Valley, FNAF is modern, FNAF is old, FNAF is sit and survive, FNAF isn't sit and survive, FNAF is in a pizzeria, FNAF is at home, FNAF is paranormal, FNAF is sci-fi, FNAF is funny, FNAF is scary. FNAF has been everything. And so, when asked what FNAF is, we answer what we want FNAF to be. Some of us want FNAF to be a complete horror experience, because some of us believe that FNAF was always meant to be horror. Others cite the lack of gore and cartoonishness to push for a more well-rounded experience. And this is just one of many examples. There are so many variants based on FNAF's wide range of games and our own ideals. It's always been more complicated than the old era versus the new era. It's my ideal FNAF versus your ideal FNAF versus their ideal FNAF. All the strengths I gathered could be seen as weaknesses to someone else. I didn't create FNAF's missing potential. I made my ideal FNAF. One of many potentials.
Oh my god, corny, lame, boo, tomato, tomato, tomato.
Everyone has gotten so caught up on what FNAF should be that we never stopped to question why this argument exists in the first place. The old era fans and new era fans look down on each other, both unaware that their views of what FNAF should be both have solid explanations. And it's a shame that some don't realize this, because it makes you wonder how many potential FNAF ideas have been overlooked, because some don't realize that FNAF has been and therefore could be anything. Take Security Breach for example, a game widely debated and regarded as a failure. And as much as I dragged it, it's kind of fun. Okay, well, the premise is fun. Look at all these shapes and colors. If this Pizzaplex existed in real life, I would live there. It may have left much to be desired, but it also has potentials. I even stole some of these strengths to build my own ideal FNAF. For example, the voice acting and the setting, etc. These are interesting ideas that could be overlooked because it, quote, isn't what FNAF should be. Am I saying that we should never be critical of FNAF? Absolutely not. You heard my screams of despair when describing Security Breach. But I also think that we shouldn't completely shoot it down or ignore the potentials it has and why some view it as their ideal FNAF. Your ideal FNAF depends on what you prioritize. Do you want more narrative, a specific gameplay style? There are so many different potentials for FNAF. I know this all sounds like a cop-out. Everyone is right and everyone is wrong and we should accept other people's opinions. Yippee! But in my defense, I started working on this video fully believing that my ideal FNAF was the correct one. This was just an observation that I kind of stumbled upon along the way. The whole potentials bit was a bit cheesy. I will admit that. It was all pretty cheesy, actually. But I'll stand by it. And for those who are understandably angry, the toxic gossip train, chugging down the tracks of misinformation. The toxic gossip train, chugging your one-way ticket to manipulation station. Ooh, I guess you could say the future is looking bright. I describe Security Breach as ambitious for a reason. I think Steel Wolf Studios meant well. They just flew too close to the sun, adding too much and rushing things. Security Breach got a free DLC called Ruin. It was like an apology and a correction of mistakes, such as, you know, the whole resurrection thing. Interestingly, it has some bits from my ideal FNAF. The Pizzaplex is all run down, showing a darker side of the corporate facade, and spaces are more enclosed. We play as Cassie, and she actually has emotions. I have never been so happy to hear a child cry, more so than usual. This is the voice acting we need. There are more details, but you get what I mean. Overall, this DLC was a good apology. Take notes, YouTube beauty community.
And you did it at my birthday dinner.
Or maybe don't, because it still has some issues. There are some goofy animations, and the new villain is a character that was introduced exclusively in the books. Will I ever be free? But still, a good apology. It didn't need a ukulele anyways. We also have Help Wanted 2. In my opinion, the first one is better, but this one also shows promise. I won't go into further details to spoil people, but let's just say this feels like a step towards moving on from the old era. Who knows where we'll go from here? So yeah, it turns out that FNAF's true missing potential is the overlooking of other potentials due to FNAF's wide unidentifiable variety. So guys, stop fighting! Jason, this isn't you. Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? What I'm trying to say is, guys, together, we are FNAF.
Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.
Now that I have devastated us all, consider subscribing. I hope you enjoyed this video. It started out as me just wanting to share my idea, but as I researched, I noticed that not a lot of people talked about how FNAF's growth into a pop culture icon affected FNAF itself. I've seen a lot of articles just broadly praising FNAF and its community, and while there are a lot of awesome people in the fandom, I'm also very intrigued by the discourse. At the end of the day, I'm not smart enough to fully tackle it. I started this video wanting to share my idea, so I stuck to it. But I also didn't really want to drop the topic. And in the end, it all led to my big revelation. You guys probably already knew that whole revelation thing. I mean, maybe I'm just late to the party, I don't know. But maybe someone somewhere out there has become woke. Has been awoketh by this video. I'm not betting on it though. Feel free to share your potential FNAFs in the comments below. Do you agree with me? Or are you plotting my murder as we speak? Please don't hurt me. Before you kill me, however, please check out all the channels that I referenced or used footage from. And while this video was less analytical and more opinions based, please check out all the articles and videos that I used to inform my argument. All the links are in the description below. Do it, you cowards! I also just want to thank you guys so much for the support that I've gotten on my last video. I fully aimed for that video to get like 10 views. What the hell is this? You guys are insane. I'm going insane. And to those who subscribed, thank you and welcome. I'm concerned about the choices you make. Are you okay? This video turned out to be so much bigger than I thought it would be, and I'm not expecting much considering FNAF is covered a lot on YouTube, but I'm here for a good time, not a long time. I think for my next video I'm going to do something a little bit smaller, just to have some reprieve from being flung around a tornado. But like William Afton, I always come back. I can't do a low voice, my voice is gone. Anyways, after all of this, I have been inspired. I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna defeat the internet police with the power of friendship. Until next time, stay safe and don't be too silly. Bye! Wish me luck. Not that I'll need any. Freddy